the hypnosis is arranged, but people don't necessarily have to close their eyes. People don't necessarily have to go into a trance, but there's still this talk between the hypnotist and the subject or the patient. They did quite a bit of interaction even in hypnosis with people. People were talking to them. One of the early forms of hypnotherapy was that the clinician would have the patient go into trance, and then the clinician would basically just ask the person, now that you're in the trance, what's wrong with you? They would ask the person directly for a wiser part of themselves to tell them what was wrong, and they were often right. They would say, it's my heart, it's my liver, it's, the headaches have something to do, and they would often be right. So this is one of the first ways in which hypnosis was used in medicine, was to ask people what was wrong with them. So Ribot and Bernheim just wanted to use this interactional framework in a different way. And they started to talk between the clinician and the patient, and they studied this and took notes on this and found it to be very successful. And they called this new approach psychotherapeutics. So you can now amaze all of your friends and family by telling them that psychotherapy comes from hypnosis. Hypnosis was established first, and then through study of modifying the technique of hypnosis was born psychotherapy. So if anybody tells you, oh, this hypnosis is kind of a woo-woo thing, and I don't know, I wouldn't do hypnosis because it's really weird, and tell them, well, if you're using psychotherapy, you're basically using something that was derived from and came directly from hypnosis. So just an interesting little tidbit that you can amaze, again, all your friends and family. So they carried on this research, and the word of hypnosis spread throughout Europe and eventually into the United States and other places.
What's this name?
And there were some people that were starting to investigate hypnosis itself rather than mesmerism. One of the people that started to experiment with hypnosis was Sigmund Freud.
What is the name of that?
And by all accounts, Sigmund Freud was a horrible hypnotist, and he very quickly gave up hypnosis and said, oh, this doesn't get the results that I want. About the same time, he was developing free association, and he said free association, of course, is the royal road to the unconscious. So he said,
the royal road to the unconscious. Did you hear that? The royal road to the unconscious. Hey, if you're hanging out with me on Facebook, you know what, never mind. I'm gonna just keep letting you see my face. I was gonna let you see the face of this man talking right here, but I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna save that for a bit. Yeah. Did y'all hear that though? Did you hear that? Hey, it should have made you think about one small thing. Those chakras, those auras, that line go into somewhat called the divine. Hey, 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 hey. It's what the people say. Hey, 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 hey. It's what the people say. I'm gonna back this up so y'all can hear that again, because I promise you, you didn't hear what you thought you heard. You didn't hear. Listen to this. Hey,
he was developing free association, and he said free association, of course, is the royal road to the unconscious. So he said,
pre-association is the royal road to the unconscious. Say it with me. Pre-association is the royal road to the unconscious. Hey, imagination. Hey, I don't think y'all heard it. I don't think you know what you heard.
About the same time, he was developing free association, and he said free association, of course, is the royal road to the unconscious. So he said cloth, mother, food,
mother, food,
mother,
love, hey,
mother,
say mother. Hey.
So the free association technique was being developed, and Freud kind of shuffled off hypnosis and said it doesn't work, use free association. And back then, when Freud spoke, everybody listened.
Freud shuffled it off and said that this process doesn't use free association. Hey. It is what people say, and people said, in this case, one Sigmund Freud, one Sigmund. But the most interesting thing is how we fast forward into the future. Hey, listen more closely. I promise you'll hear something. I promise you'll hear something. Listen more closely.
Love.
Love. Hey, hey.
Mother. Aha! Aha! So the free association technique was being developed, and Freud kind of shuffled off hypnosis and said it doesn't work, use free association. And back then, when Freud spoke, everybody listened. So all of the Vienna Circle said, hypnosis is no good, hypnosis is no good, hypnosis is no good. But fortunately, there were other people that weren't so under the sway of Freud and continued to study. There was a fellow in the United States named Morton Prince who did a great deal of study in hypnosis. William James was very interested in altered states of awareness and therefore in hypnosis. There were people in Europe that were still kind of in the underground, out of Freud's view, experimenting with hypnosis. Now, we learned many, many years later that there was a great deal of research going on in Russia in hypnosis. Of course, we don't learn anything about Russia until about 50 or 80 years after the fact. They tend to be very quiet about what they do. So there were two scientists in particular in Russia that were doing extensive research into hypnosis. One was named Bekhterev, and the other was named Pavlov. And that name also might ring a bell. And if it does ring a bell, and you feel like salivating a little bit, that's okay. It's called a conditioned response.
A conditioned response. Did that ring a bell for you? Hey, hey, hey. Did that ring a bell for you, my friends? Hey, hey, hey. Well, if it didn't, I know that this will ring a bell. Well, I mean, I know this will ring a bell. This is my shaker, shaker 1. Where's my shaker 2? I gotta find my shaker 2. You'll meet them in a few. But bring something to your imagination. That's what it is. Imagination is all about the power of imagination. This brother right here, this brother from another mother, and I say that because we are definitely from other mothers and the same mother. Love. Hey, did y'all hear what he said? Did y'all hear when he said that? I don't think you heard it. Well, check this out. It's a very interesting thing. It's so interesting. The imagination. In this talk right here, this brother said that psychotherapy was birthed from hypnosis already being a thing. I wish I could figure out exactly the minute marker when he said that, because that rung a bell for me. What he's essentially saying and what he described, and I only played a couple minutes because I was already into my morning learning experience, and I just decided to bring you in on it. Hey, you. Happy New Year. Happy 22. Let's get it. So he said that psychotherapy came from hypnosis, not the other way around. Oh my gosh, what does that mean? Well, it's this imagination, this brain thing. It's the power of suggestion and the power of imagination together. It's what we do every time we dance on the dance floor come through. It's what we do every time we open our mic and spit bars come through. It's what we do anytime we get in an automobile called the car come through. It's life, it's jazz, it's movement, it's me, it's you. The power of imagination. The power of imagination. And so as I was sitting here studying my psychotherapy class for the day, I was like, you know what? Imagination. Imagine that. That imagination would be the thing that if you grabbed hold to with all your heart, your mind, and your soul, that you could change and revolutionize your life. You could take your happy new year and turn it into a good life. You could bring things from afar near to you because of your law of attraction come through. Yes, you. I'm talking to you. With your imagining self. See, I know that the people that I attract with my geomagnetic ass are people that are like-minded, of the same kind. And that's what makes you, what makes me, me, and what makes us attracted to each other magnetically. Yup, it's because I'm psychic. And so are you. Come through. Hey. Yep. So you are a person that uses your imagination. It's what got you this far. In a sense, it's evolution's greatest trait. Because if we can imagine things that may be different than what we are currently experiencing, then somehow that would give us the courage, that would give us the passion, that would give us the fight to pull ourselves to that level and to achieve that or receive that or succeed at that. Whatever that is. So I was like, man, I want to go down this rabbit hole today of the power of imagination. So as y'all know, you know how it flows on the AP morning show. I got an article, plus I got a video for you and for me to come through. And I thank you for doing just that, wherever you're joining me from around the globe. And to my Facebook people, hey, act like you know and come on over here to Clubhouse. Download Clubhouse. It's an audio chat app. Just hanging out on the phone like you're about to hear me do with a few people that's hanging with me right now. It gives me the ability to hear your voice and say hey to your beautiful face and check in, which I like to do and have loved to do since I was 15. See, at 15, I was imagining things and I was putting them into practice, just hanging out with people, checking in, seeing if they needed a place to vent or even just a friend. And so let me just do that. So hey to my Clubhouse family, hey to Asurka, and hey to my friend Lisa Maya. Oh my gosh. It's what I love about the serendipity, plus the intention, not to mention what it does, the inventions, the fascination, the imagination. Hey, what's up, family? I like to talk to you. So by all means, if you like to say hey with your 2022 ass, throw up a wave, come onto the stage. I'd let us say hey and check in to see how you're doing. Yeah. And if not, because I'm helping you to take over your background experience, helping you get a little work done, or whatever the case may be. I thank you so much, as always, for being you and for coming through. Hey. It's what the people say. Jay Dilla, Ahmad Impresses Me is the name of this track that you're hearing in the background. Who is Ahmad? Well, I'm so glad that you silently asked. Ahmad is only one of the greatest jazz piano players who ever lived. Ahmad Jamal was his name. And Jay Dilla is to blame for putting together this dope ass track, man. Goodness gracious, y'all hear that? Jay Dilla, he was absolutely my top producer, biggest influence in music from my very beginning. Jay Dilla, hot like chocolate, latte and vanilla. Hey, it's Jay Dilla, hot like chocolate, latte and vanilla. Unless you're lactose intolerant. Hot like chocolate, latte and vanilla. Hey, it's Jay Dilla. It's Jay Dilla. Alright, so I have a video here that is called The Neuroscience of Imagination by Andrei Vishedski. I think I got that right. It's like 9 million letters in that last name and a bunch of V's and Y's and I don't know what. But yeah. And so we're going to listen to a little bit of this wisdom to check in to see what it be. What it be, what it be, what it be, what it be, what it be. The Neuroscience of Imagination. Andrei Vishedski. Yep. And if you want to hang with me to watch this on Facebook, because you want to see the beautiful faces that I'm making at the camera, or you actually want to watch this video, because this video actually has visuals with it to add to the imagination. And so if you want to do that, then hey, be patient, god damn it. Hold on a second, I'm about to share my screen. You could join me on Facebook at Aaron Hill TV. Aaron Hill TV. Aaron Hill TV. You could join me on Facebook right now. Here's a little tip. Mute the audio, because if not, you're gonna hear two of me, and you know, it might feel like that. So mute the Facebook, and yeah, check this out. We're gonna watch this video. All right, let's do a new share. Hey, 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 hey. The power of imagination. All right, let's do a new share. Hey, oh. All right, here we go. Andrei Vishedski, power of imagination.
Imagine for a second a duck teaching a French class, a ping pong match in orbit around a black hole, a dolphin balancing a pineapple. You probably haven't.
Wait a minute, that's kind of crazy how you started that.
Imagine for a second a duck teaching a French class,
duck teaching a
ping pong match in orbit around a black hole, a dolphin balancing a pineapple. You probably haven't actually seen any of these things.
Because I don't do heroin. No, I'm just kidding. And neither should you. All right, here you go. I just couldn't resist.
But you could imagine them instantly. How does your brain produce an image of something you've never seen? That may not seem hard, but that's only because we're so used to doing it. It turns out that this is actually a complex problem that requires sophisticated coordination inside your brain. That's because to create these new, weird images, your brain takes familiar pieces and assembles them in new ways, like a collage made from fragments of photos. The brain has to juggle a sea of thousands of electrical signals, getting them all to their destination at precisely the right time. When you look at an object, thousands of neurons in your posterior cortex fire. These neurons encode various characteristics of the object: spiky, fruit, brown, green, and yellow. This synchronous firing strengthens the connections between that set of neurons, linking them together into what's known as a neuronal ensemble. In this case, the one for pineapple. In neuroscience, this is called the Hebbian.
Wait a minute, how you just gonna say to a musician and producer, an ensemble? What? Come on, y'all. You already know where my brain. Now I'm watching a brain fire on the screen, and my brain is firing its ass off right now. Oh my gosh, I gotta run that back.
Ensemble. In this case, the one for pineapple. In neuroscience, this is called the Hebbian principle. Neurons that fire together, wire together. If you try
neurons that fire together, wire together. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Think about that. If we we combine that with our thoughts of us connecting as people and as family and as community. What? Come on, y'all. There's so much wisdom right here. So much wisdom. All right. I ain't gonna stop it too much more. I'm sorry. My brain is firing.
Together, wire together. If you try to imagine a pineapple later, the Hebbian principle. Neurons that fire together, wire together. If you try to imagine a pineapple later, the whole ensemble will light up, assembling a complete mental image. Dolphins are encoded by a different neuronal ensemble. In fact, every object that you've seen.
Neuronal ensemble. That was the word I was looking for. Neuronal ensemble. I'm gonna look that shit up. We're gonna talk about that. Neuronal ensemble. Keep that in your minds.
Are encoded by a different neuronal ensemble. In fact, every object that you've seen is encoded by a neuronal ensemble associated with it. The neurons wired together by that synchronized firing. But this principle doesn't explain the infinite number of objects that we can conjure up in our imaginations without ever seeing them. The neuronal ensemble for a dolphin balancing a pineapple doesn't exist. So how come you can imagine it anyway? One hypothesis, called the mental synthesis theory, says that, again, timing is key. If the neuronal ensembles for the dolphin and pineapple are activated at the same time, we can perceive the two separate objects as a single image.
Oh,
But
snap.
something in your brain has to coordinate that firing. One plausible candidate is the prefrontal cortex,
Oh my gosh, the third fucking eye. Oh my gosh. Come on.
which is involved in all complex cognitive functions. Prefrontal cortex neurons are connected to the posterior cortex by long, spindly cell extensions called neural fibers. The mental synthesis theory proposes that, like a puppeteer pulling the strings, the prefrontal cortex neurons send electrical signals down these neural fibers to multiple ensembles in the posterior cortex.
So all the ensembles work together. Come on, y'all. This is music. Oh my gosh, this is life. Crazy.
This activates them in unison. If the neuronal ensembles are turned on at the same time, you experience the composite image just as if you'd actually seen it. This conscious, purposeful synchronization of different neuronal ensembles by the prefrontal cortex is called mental synthesis. In order for mental synthesis to work, signals would have to arrive at both neuronal ensembles at the same time. The problem is that some neurons are much farther away from the prefrontal cortex than others. If the signals traveled down both fibers at the same rate, they'd arrive out of sync. You can't change the length of the connections, but your brain, especially as it develops in childhood, does have a way to change the conduction velocity. Neural fibers are wrapped in a fatty substance called myelin. Myelin is an insulator and speeds up the electrical signals zipping down the nerve fiber. Some neural fibers have as many as 100 layers of myelin. Others only have a few. And fibers with thicker layers of myelin can conduct signals 100 times faster or more than those with thinner ones. Some scientists now think that this difference in myelination could be the key to uniform conduction time in the brain, and consequently to our mental synthesis ability. A lot of this myelination happens in childhood, so from an early age, our vibrant imaginations may have a lot to do with building up brains whose carefully myelinated connections can craft creative symphonies throughout our lives.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So as you can imagine, every neuron in my brain is firing right now. And it's enhanced by the wake and bake. Oh my God. Come on, yo. All right. So when you think about evolution, when you think about you as a human being human, what puts us at the place of where we are as a species is literally that trait right there. It's so fascinating. The imagination. So fascinating. Salud if you're drinking your tea. And coffee. And by the way, if you have not ever seen the Aaron Hill mug, the revealing mug, yeah, I'll show it to you in a few minutes, in a few moments. In fact, those that's hanging here with me on Clubhouse. You need one. You need one. So that's what sets us apart as a species, the power of imagination. It's so interesting. When I think about how we respond to life, improvisation, creativity, that is the ability to imagine something that doesn't exist, but mathematically, like it explained here, our brains can put it together and make an image. So I think about going into the new year, I think about how we handle every moment of our life and how the power of our imagination is what helps us. And that's where we're going to chop it up today. Hey, I see a Circa coming to the stage. Let's check in. T, what it be, family? I hope that you're well. And let me check over here on Facebook. I hope that you all are well. Let me see my Facebook family. Hey, check in. Hey. what the people say. What's up, Asurga?
What's poppin', Aaron?
Hey, good morning to you. I say good morning to you. Okay, are you old enough to remember that? You know that.
Is that the little chicken?
Nah, it's Martin Lawrence. I think is it Martin Lawrence stand up? I think it's You So Crazy. If you haven't seen it, Martin
The
Lawrence.
show, Martin?
Yeah, but not the show. Martin's stand up. I think it was Martin You So Crazy. Somebody here might know it. But it's a line in there, and the line is, "Good morning to you. I say good morning to you." All right, I'm not gonna spoil the rest of the joke. I'm gonna leave that to, if you Google that. In fact, Google that if you get a chance. Martin Lawrence, "Good morning to you." Somebody might have a clip of just that one line, or at least the situation. You'll see. Anywho, good morning to you.
Grand Rising.
Grandest of risings, if I might say so myself.
Yes. I'm really excited about this little article, this little video, because
Yeah.
I don't know if you read my bio, but I would love to be a neuroscientist. I took neuroscience in college, is my favorite subject.
Oh, wow.
I personally, everything that you're reading, I was like, oh my God, I learned about all of this. This is so awesome. Like, yes, it definitely. So like I have a whole bunch of tangents I could definitely go on, but
Oh, yeah.
the neural sympathy
Yes.
or
Yes. Yes.
ensemble. Oh
Right.
my God, let's just call it a symphony.
Yeah.
So like that, I think that's just so interesting because that is like, because once you're able to process, one thing, you process the other. That's
Right.
honestly, I believe, like how imagination works is your brain has these connections. We've seen a pineapple, we've seen a dolphin, and so like bringing them together, understanding that that pineapple neuron is just maybe one neuron or a couple of them, right? And that dolphin neuron is a one neuron or a couple of them. Those are different ensembles, and once they are able to like make a connection between them, that's when you get that imagination. So honestly, as you grow up and you get older and whatnot, your ability to make new connections between different neurons is what gets more difficult when you get older, because whereas you're younger, like they said, when you're younger, you have this vibrant imagination, and it does have to do with like the myelinated neurons and whatnot, but also like you're just making more connections because your brain's like, well, I see a drill, but it looks like a gun. I'm going to say it's like a type of a gun. Instead of, we've learned that it's a drill, I'm not going to make that connection that it's anything else. So like we set ourselves in like this same neural path, but it's not impossible like to get out of it.
Right. 100%. It's so wild that you said that, because you think about what we were talking about the other day as far as the brain. And hey, Sonia, how you doing? Hope you're well. We're talking about the brain and just how you have the ability to do cardio for the brain by giving yourself new experiences. In many ways, that's how you trigger your imagination, But it's so fascinating to me, right? Because I was thinking about this while you were talking. Imagination is the seat of invention. Imagination is the seat of invention. And it's so interesting because it literally is what sets us apart as a species from the other species that we observe. Like, now, of course, you can only know what you know. So there might be something there that we don't know. But like, you think about imagination, you think about a plane, you think about a cell phone, you think about this conversation. It's like we had to think of something that wasn't there, and to take two different things and have the ability to put them together in our mind before time. Like I was joking earlier here when I was like, I'm psychic, and I was like, and you are too. And really that means everything and nothing, because that's just who we are. That's what imagination is. Because if you have a problem, you take something like, okay, we need to get farther faster. We need to get across the world faster. Well, you can't do it but so well by walking, especially once you get to water. And then even once you learn how to build something, well, you had to imagine, okay, we got to get over this water. So then you use your imagination, you build something so you can get over the water. But then that's still too slow. You're like, we got all this space up above the water. So what if something could just go across the land and the water and not touch either of it, and then boom, here you are. But you had a problem first that you needed to solve, and then you used the ability to say, look at the birds and look at the distance and think about, something else that you built, and just boom. And then here you go to airplane, and here you go, with all these other inventions. So it's really fascinating to me, this power of imagination and how it really sets us apart as a species. And I wonder how that stacks up for other animals. It's interesting, to say the least, So all this is fascinating to me, and so I have this, and I also have another article that I'm going to read a little bit about as well. But I want to take a quick second to say hey to my family, Akin, T, Sonia, hey family, and all my fam hanging out over here on the FB. Angela says, okay, I had to do that long because my computer's buffering. So I was trying to give my computer time to buffer. So I had to make the word says way too damn long. Okay, Angela says, this is interesting to say the least. You are right. And what's up, John Gorman? Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, so power of imagination. It's fascinating. And Circa, I think it's fascinating just how it sets us, just an interesting trait as a species, like to have that ability to put together things and solve problems in new ways and build shit.
And I think the word that I was looking for is neuroplasticity.
Plasticity, yeah.
And it's just the ability for your brain just to make new connections.
Right.
But I don't know what it's called, but like for other animals, they're more driven by instinct. So
right.
Like their brain processes aren't really trying to make new connections to be innovative. Like
right.
A lot of the tools that they have is through evolution, whereas our tools are like things that we've created. Like beavers, yeah, they make dams, but that's about all they do. So it's like, yeah, we are like very, very unique in that.
Yeah. So it's interesting how you said that. You said some comes from evolution and then some comes from our creation. But when you think about, and that's why I said imagination is the seed of invention, because that us creating is evolution. Like, it's just an interesting trait. That's why I'm like, yo, it's so interesting. I mean, like you said, other animals, boom, they just they do what they do. One of the other ways I think about this is my ability to sit here in my studio and in front of my computer with a protein shake, some percussion around me, my vape, my tea, a keyboard, like chilling, right? And this is what I have taken my life and invented and created as my purpose, as my mission, as my journey. You take an ant is only gonna just immediately get to work to build the nest and do the other stuff that it needs, right? But an ant's not gonna be like, you know what, instead of doing that, instead of working that job, like I want to go play the piano, or I want to go, forget the piano, I want to just go, while they're building, I want to travel. I want to see other parts of the world other than this one damn anthill. Like that's just not what happens. But in an interesting way, I am able to do that. It's the interesting thing about the imagination. We can imagine ourselves as this or that, and that's what allows us to be unique and be ourselves. It's interesting, so interesting. So I've got a really cool article here, The Power of Imagination and Mental Images, and I'm actually going to read a bit of this so we could see what this is about and see what this has to offer. The power of imagination and mental images. So everyone possesses a certain degree of imagination ability. The imagination manifests in varying degrees in each person. Different people possess a different degree of this ability. In some, it's highly developed. and in others, it manifests in a weaker form. Some people are able to imagine clear mental images, and others can only imagine blurred images. However, this ability can be improved with some proper exercises. So imagination makes it possible to experience a whole world inside of your mind. It enables you to look at any situation from any point of view and to mentally explore the past, present, and future. So how can we define imagination? What is it? It's interesting, explore the past and the future. For a second, that just gives me a thought. It's another way to put it. There are not many other species that can take from things in the past and assess them, put them side by side with other things, and then bring them forward into the future. Like to that very moment. But then past that moment to then say, okay, based on that and bringing it here, what could it possibly look like there? Or what would I want to change? It's interesting. We have the ability to process that and to think about that. To mentally explore the past, to be in the present, and to explore the future. So fascinating. I just had to pause on that because these kind of things get me. So how can we define it? It is the ability to form a mental image of something that is not perceived through the five senses. It is the ability of the mind to build mental scenes, objects, or events that do not currently exist or are not present or have happened already in the past. This ability manifests in various forms, one of which is daydreaming, which I do so much of it. Balance is key, right? So I was like, okay, all right. My New Year's resolution is to daydream, and put it in a schedule, have a scheduled time daydream. Because daydreaming, while it is the seat of imagination, sometimes you cannot get anything else done. But when you come up with that idea, though, through that daydream, that's like that $1 million idea, it's the most impactful thing, to yourself or your family. Oh, man. Hey. But yeah, you might just need somebody else to cook and bring your meals to you, though, and do some other shit. I put a Facebook post up. I think it might have been maybe about 3 months ago, and it was a random question. I was like, do y'all think, those of y'all that believe in Jesus, do y'all think that he had to cook and prepare his own meals, or do y'all think they were brought to him? And the comment section was hilarious. I'm gonna find that and reshare that today. Oh my gosh, I'd like to see what you say. But daydreaming, too much of it may make one impractical. But a certain degree of daydreaming, while not being engaged in something that requires attention, provides temporary happiness, calmness, and relief from stress. Oh my gosh. And as much as I'm into what I do, in studying psychotherapy, I didn't know that simply daydreaming could relieve you of stress. It's amazing. In your imagination, you can travel anywhere in the speed of light without any obstacles. It can make you feel free, though temporarily, and only in the mind from tasks, difficulties, and unpleasant circumstances. The other day we were here on the morning show, and we had a spontaneous moment of a gratefulness round where everybody just shared one thing they were grateful for. So I think about that practice and how this applies. You do two things when you practice that, when you just take a second to be grateful. Number one, you use your mind to think about things. You daydream for a second. And then you're applying something positive. You're looking for the silver lining. You're looking for something to actually appreciate, which gives you a double dose of stress relief and happiness in the moment. If you don't have one already, you should develop a gratefulness practice. And actually, I'm going to create one as well for you. in my 5M experience content. Look out for that meditation real soon. And if you're hanging with me here on Clubhouse, first of all, hey. Second off, if you're listening to this after the fact, then I'm about to put a link above your head and mine here, and it's going to be my contribution to self-care, which, like I said, the next thing I'll do is I will do a gratefulness meditation to share with you. But this is my concept, and it's called 5M. And you're going to experience 5M above your head in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hey. Save that link. These are my soulful, soothing self-care tools for you and me, which is why I created them, because I need some shit for myself. So, too much daydreaming, right? This ability manifests in various forms, one of which is daydreaming. Though too much idle daydreaming may make one impractical. A certain degree of daydreaming, while not being engaged in something that requires your attention, provides temporary happiness, calmness, and relief from stress. In your imagination, you can travel anywhere in the speed of light without any obstacles, and it can make you feel free, though temporarily and only in the mind, from tasks, difficulties, and unpleasant circumstances. Find something to be grateful about. Imagination is not limited only to seeing pictures, though, in the mind. It includes all 5 senses and the feelings, and it is possible to imagine sounds, tastes, smells, physical sensations, feelings, and emotions. For some people, it is easy to see mental pictures. Others find it easier to imagine a feeling, and some are more comfortable imagining the sensation of one of the 5 senses. Training of the imagination gives the ability to combine all the senses. A developed and strong imagination does not make you a daydreamer and impractical. On the contrary, it strengthens your creative abilities and is a great tool for recreating and remodeling your world and your life. This is a wonderful power that can change your whole life. It is used extensively in magic, creative visualization, and affirmations. It is the creator of circumstances and events. When you know how to work with it, you can make your heart's desires come true. Imagination has a great role and value in each one of our lives. It is much more than just idle daydreaming. We all use it, whether consciously or unconsciously, in most of our daily affairs. We use our imagination wherever, whenever, and wherever we plan a party, a trip, or work, or a meeting. We use it when we describe an event, explain how to arrive to a certain street, write, tell a story, or cook a cake. This makes me think about the other day when we were here and talking about the brain and talking about the left and the right hemispheres. And we were all chopping it up about, hey, are you more left brain or right brain? What we all found out is that there's no way to avoid both. Even when you're at your most analytical, you are using your imagination in order to complete that task. So we use our imagination whenever we plan a party, a trip, our work, or a meeting. We use it to describe an event, explain how to arrive at a certain street, write, tell a story, or cook a cake. Imagination is a creative power that is necessary for inventing an instrument, designing a dress or a house, painting a picture, or writing a book. The creative power of imagination has an important role in the achievement of success in any field. What we imagine often and expect to happen can come into being. It is the important ingredient of creative visualization, positive thinking, and affirmations. Visualizing an object or situation and repeating often this mental image attracts the object or situation we visualize into our lives. This opens for us new, vast, and fascinating opportunities. because it means that we should think only in a positive manner about our desires. Otherwise, we might attract into our lives events, situations, and people that we don't really want. That's funny because that, like, I agree with that, but it's funny. I could see that was when the author just went into their own. This is actually what most of us do because we don't use the power of imagination correctly. If you do not recognize the importance of the power of the imagination and let it run riot, your life may not be as happy and as successful as you want it to be. And lack of understanding of the power of the imagination is responsible for the suffering, incompetence, difficulties, failures, and unhappiness that most people experience. Last but not least, for some reason, most people are inclined to think in a negative way. Well, I know a lot of damn reasons why. They do not expect success. They expect the worst to happen, and when they fail, they believe that fate is against them. This attitude, though, can be changed, and then life will improve accordingly. So understanding how to use your imagination correctly and putting this knowledge into practice for your own and others' benefits will put you on the golden path to success, satisfaction, and happiness. Yeah, I appreciate that. Ramez Sasson, author and creator of Success Consciousness website. Yeah, so I just, that touches me. Imagination is what it is. Oh, and I see some imagination people with me. What's up, Coco? Hey, is anybody that knows about imagination? It's Coco Lorraine Vera. And so I feel the same way. A circle, this is who you are. T, bruh, you're an imaginator. If that's a word, you're an imaginationer. And imagine something or other.
An imaginative?
An imaginativer. You know, I gotta put something else on it. To be. Exactly. So that's what it is. What you think of this article? How did it hit you, Circa?
I kept getting phone calls. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Did you catch any little piece, any little snag?
I think it was just the part where they were saying like about your negative imaginations,
right?
And how you can like do that if you like negatively imagine stuff a lot, like
right.
You can attract that to you instead of attracting something
right.
positive. Like you're constantly focused on that, so it's gonna
right.
drive itself to you.
Right. Yeah. The law of attraction. So, yeah, to a good degree, we create, mold, and shape our reality. Sometimes we are in circumstances that are just, we were born straight into that shit. Bottom line. Ain't had shit to do with it. But we might have took that shit and turned it into shine like the butterfly does in the cocoon. I wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for Coco Lorraine Vera. Whatever it is, though, it's the power of imagination that actually allows us to pull through. And Circa, this is what I was saying to you the other day when we were talking about attachment theory and how there's, when you look at these different things, they all line up except for where they don't. And it's like, well, what's going on there? That right there is evolution. That right there is the power of imagination. There are some people that are in a long family history of drunks or abusive people. And when they look around at it, their imagination says to them that they can see themselves not continuing to fulfill that cycle, but actually doing something different because they can imagine a better life and a better world and a better family legacy.
Yes.
So,
I think one of the articles you had read on the personality traits of somebody who's like awesome or whatever. I think like imaginative was one of them. And I remember when we went through the article, I think one thing that I don't know if I was just upset about was they said you can't imagine something unless you've experienced it. And it's like, I mean, you can, but it's like when you put it into our brain, anything is honestly possible. Like they said, like ping pong across a black hole. Like, I can imagine that, and I can just see the ping pong like just getting stuck every now and again,
Right.
but
Right.
still going over the table. And so something I've never seen, but like we're able to take the laws that we understand of this object and this object and put them together
There you
and
go.
understand, how they're going to interact. So you don't have to
Mm-hmm.
like experience
Except,
everything in order to.
I got you. But check this out. I think what you're pointing to is dead on, except for it's not that you have to experience the thing that you're imagining, but if you notice, black hole and ping pong, right? Now, nobody, if you've been in a black hole and I'm talking to you right now, well, we need to have a longer conversation about how you survived that shit. But you learned about it. That's an experience of it. And then you played ping pong or saw somebody else play it. That's an experience of it. And even though you haven't experienced the two together, you've experienced the branches separately, which makes you be able to see them together. You feel me?
Yeah, but I think there's some people that even though they've experienced these things, it's hard for them to even imagine that. Like, because I don't know, like sometimes when you talk, like some people are just very like, not closed-minded, but they're not imaginative, and it's not easy for them to like get to that. So I think, I personally think that point of view is coming from those people that it makes it difficult for them to imagine something that they've never seen. So that's what I'm thinking it's coming from, and not necessarily like I don't know. But yeah, that makes sense.
Check this out. You heard it, and then we're gonna say what's up to Coco. You heard the cave analogy, right? Like the people in the cave. So boom, there you go. It's like you can't, when it comes to like certain things, you can't imagine them because you haven't experienced not only that thing, but other things that could even relate to that thing to make you imagine that thing. You know what I'm saying? What's up, Trey? And then you either know that there's an outside of the cave or you don't. And you either have a way to put that together by other experiences or you don't. And boom, that's all she wrote. So it's really fascinating and imaginating. So with that, Coco, let's say good morning to Coco.
Good morning.
Hey.
Hey.
With the people. Hey. Good morning.
Great. I heard a little bit of that article about imagination, and I was like, yep, if you don't know how to use that imagination properly, your life can be pretty interesting.
Right, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. My imagination has been my greatest gift, but it's also been dangerous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it the double edge of the sword? That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's literally.
Can you imagine someone's proposing to you and they're just tying their shoelace? It's just. You can have a whole it's like, yeah, I'm dating someone right now who's in another nation. Oh, which nation? My imagination.
Oh my God! Wait a minute, yo. That's the funniest shit I've ever heard.
I got dual citizenship too.
Yo.
I'm telling you, your
shit.
whole relationship with somebody in your imagination, a whole other nation. He's not from this world. He's
not from this nation. What nation? Imagination.
Imagination.
I have never in my life heard that, and that is the most perfect funny nugget I've ever heard, because that's exactly what it is. Wow. And so you're absolutely right. It's like our imagination is a thing that, just like other things in life, it has its pros and its cons. That's why I was like, I don't think you were here when I read the part about daydreaming, but they basically were like, yeah, daydreaming is amazing, except for when it just makes your ass procrastinate and not get anything else done, and you're the only goddamn one that had to take care of your whole life. Hell yeah. And I was just
6 hours go by and you're still sitting there. I lived in my imagination, and in daydreaming, that's how I coped with some stuff in my childhood, was to be in my imagination, and so it is hard for me to come back into reality sometimes because I can live there all day.
It was your safe place.
Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting. So interesting. It's the thing that allows you to be here today, to even in this very moment. You know, imagination, I was saying earlier, is the seed of invention. And all this comes from the seat of evolution. It's just responding to a fucking problem. That's all evolution is, responding to a problem. You got to get over this hurdle. So you develop eyes or lips, or you develop a different way of thinking about things, or imagining a way to get across it, whatever. It's just imagining yourself surviving by putting together other things and being like, well, it's at least worth a goddamn try. You know, it's so interesting.
That's what I love about in the caterpillar body. They named the cells that create the butterfly body imaginal. It's in an imaginal disc. And I'm like, why would these whoever name it an imaginal disc? Right. So you're a caterpillar walking along, and you're like, "Oops, wait a second! I feel like I need to go to sleep right now." Then all of a sudden, this weird stuff starts to form all over your face, and you fall asleep. Right. Your caterpillar body turns into soup, caterpillar soup, which is liquid protein that divides the cells inside the imaginal discs. Right. I'm wondering, did the caterpillar imagine itself as a butterfly and willingly enter into the cocoon so it can become something that it's never, just by way of imagination? Why would they call it imaginal discs? Right. So I love that story and that concept. Yeah. And so for us, you know, we can imagine our way into a new life, into a new existence, into a new careers, into new opportunities, into new relationships, into new realities. If we are willing to use the caterpillar experiences as protein, but to not stay a caterpillar, but to do the work, to believe in your dreams and in that imagination of yours and become, and I feel like I've done that, or I've reinvented myself. Right. And it's not that I'm no longer experiencing the things from my past and my memory, or that they're not relevant. They're fuel, protein that I use to you know, in essence, to fly.
So you are spot on. Let me tell you something. So you're talking about the imagination and the disc, right? Have you ever heard of the Neural Ensemble? Matter of fact, I should say it differently. Have you ever heard of the Neural Ensemble? Neural Ensemble. Okay. Earlier, I played this video that's sitting in front of me right now. I'm almost tempted to play it again because it's only 4 minutes, and I could even shuffle it down to 2 because I remember where they first talked about it. So I might have to do a quick poll. So, all right, for everybody that's here and Facebook people, I'm sorry, but you're not included because your ass is not on Clubhouse. That was my come on over to Clubhouse commercial for the moment. It's just getting more and more like ignorant, you know. It's all good. When you come over, you'll see why. Download Clubhouse audio, chat, and look for me at Aaron Hill TV. Let's talk. Let's talk about it. You can fuss me out. You can curse me out back there. But I'll do a quick poll with my people here on Clubhouse. All right. So I want to play this part about the Neural Ensemble for my friend Coco Lorraine Veer, because what I know is that when she hears what this thing is about, it's like, it's very, very interesting. So should I play it now? I'm open to it. All right.
Yes.
Okay, sweet. And T, if you are there, T, and you don't have to come to the stage, if you have a second to participate. If it's yes, then just hit the hand raise. I won't bring you to the stage. I'll just know that you're saying yes as well. And if not, that means you can't hear me right now because you walked away from your damn phone and I'm talking to myself. All right, so I got the 2 yeses, and T is enjoying the atmosphere with his phone. All right, so here we go. I'll play it. And here we go. I'm going to just go ahead and run it from the top. Let's get it.
In orbit around a... Imagine for a second a duck teaching a French class, a ping pong match in orbit around a black hole, a dolphin balancing a pineapple. You probably haven't actually seen any...
Oh, and one more thing. If you want to watch the video with me on Facebook, come on over to Facebook, because these visuals is really what puts it all together. So Aaron Hill TV, red and black icon. And yeah, if you're on Facebook, you're about to watch it. I'm gonna share my screen, take it from the top. Here we go.
Imagine for a second a duck teaching a French class, a ping pong match in orbit around a black hole, a dolphin balancing a pineapple. You probably haven't actually seen any of these things, but you could imagine them instantly. How does your brain produce an image of something you've never seen? That may not seem hard, but that's only because we're so used to doing it. It turns out that this is actually a complex problem that requires sophisticated coordination inside your brain. That's because to create these new, weird images, your brain takes familiar pieces and assembles them in new ways, like a collage made from fragments of photos. The brain has to juggle a sea of thousands of electrical signals, getting them all to their destination at precisely the right time. When you look at an object, thousands of neurons in your posterior cortex fire. These neurons encode various characteristics of the object: spiky, fruit, brown, green, and yellow. This synchronous firing strengthens the connections between that set of neurons, linking them together into what's known as a neuronal ensemble. In this case, the one for pineapple. In neuroscience, this is called the Hebbian principle. Neurons that fire together, wire together. If you try to imagine a pineapple later, the whole ensemble will light up, assembling a complete mental image. Dolphins are encoded by a different neuronal ensemble. In fact, every object that you've seen is encoded by a neuronal ensemble associated with it, the neurons wired together by that synchronized firing. But this principle doesn't explain the infinite number of objects that we can conjure up in our imaginations without ever seeing them. The neuronal ensemble for a dolphin balancing a pineapple doesn't exist. So how come you can imagine it anyway? One hypothesis, called the mental synthesis theory, says that, again, timing is key. If the neuronal ensembles for the dolphin and pineapple are activated at the same time, we can perceive the two separate objects as a single image. But something in your brain has to coordinate that firing. One plausible candidate is the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in all complex cognitive functions. Prefrontal cortex neurons are connected to the posterior cortex by long, spindly cell extensions called neural fibers. The mental synthesis theory proposes that, like a puppeteer pulling the strings, the prefrontal cortex neurons send electrical signals down these neural fibers to multiple ensembles in the posterior cortex. This activates them in unison. If the neuronal ensembles are turned on at the same time, you experience the composite image just as if you'd actually seen it. This conscious, purposeful synchronization of different neuronal ensembles by the prefrontal cortex is called mental synthesis. In order for mental synthesis to work, signals would have to arrive at both neuronal ensembles at the same time. The problem is that some neurons are much farther away from the prefrontal cortex than others. If the signals traveled down both fibers at the same rate, they'd arrive out of sync. You can't change the length of the connections, but your brain, especially as it develops in childhood, does have a way to change the conduction velocity. Neural fibers are wrapped in a fatty substance called myelin. Myelin is an insulator and speeds up the electrical signals zipping down the nerve fiber. Some neural fibers have as many as 100 layers of myelin. Others only have a few. And fibers with thicker layers of myelin can conduct signals 100 times faster or more than those with thinner ones. Some scientists now think that this difference in myelination could be the key to uniform conduction time in the brain, and consequently, to our mental synthesis ability. A lot of this myelination happens in childhood, so from an early age, our vibrant imaginations may have a lot to do with building up brains whose carefully myelinated connections can craft creative symphonies throughout our lives.
Okay, so like the way that I feel after that is like this, like just mic drop moment.
What?
Did you hear how much music was in that? How much music was in that? Okay. All right. I don't want to say nothing else. Coco. Oh my gosh.
Okay, first of all, and second of all, and third of all, and fourth of all, and fifth of all, and sixth of all, and seventh of all. That's a video that you have to watch like 8 times in order to get it. And I'm thinking, it sounds a little bit like Chinese. There's like,
Right.
So the brain, ting fong fong fong, will have.
Right.
But it was amazing to think about. My brain automatically goes to my, to so many levels of understanding with respect to why people make decisions and who has more. What was the thing that he called that coats the things on the thing? The
Myelination.
Myelination.
What if your myelination is only, it's not even a mile long?
Right.
Yeah, that's when those disorders come out.
Right. I'm thinking about like if you're myelinated is malfunctioning, then no wonder you feel like punching somebody in the throat as soon as they walk down the road. Like you can't. Just think about the brain damage in your childhood. If that's developed in your childhood, and man, I don't know. I don't have the language to say exactly how. I've been studying the brain for years, and I've never heard about this, and so I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah, I got
this morning with me because now I get to go down a whole nother rabbit hole.
Now, and check this out. And here's what this rabbit hole is going to look like. And I think this is going to spark your imagination as well. So while I was watching this video, I realized the very next thing that I'm going to do, and it's a continuation of something that you already know that I'm doing, which is recording these guided meditations. I've been thinking about also when I come across informative videos like this, doing covers of these videos. So I'm about to, as I was watching, I was like, that's it. I'm about to do that same video over with the same visualizations and everything, but my voice speaking everything that you heard in that video and my music playing in the background. And that's the video that I'm going to send you to listen to that information over and over. It's just going to be the same thing with the visuals, but my voice saying it and the music.
Right, but if you add story to that, and if you add context, and if you think
I will
about,
not
I was gonna
get
say,
it done.
I will a little context, but we could do that, Aaron, if you want, because I was gonna say there's a lot more to this myelination process, because like we can think that the myelination is like, oh, we need it like that, but it's like a cord. So once that cord is like myelinated, you can only go one route. The more myelination is the meaning that signal can't get out any other way, right? But if there's not as much myelination, then you have a little bit more neuroplasticity and you're able to make different connections instead of those same routine connections. So it's like we do need it, but we don't need it too much for everything. Like we don't want everything super, like it's like those cable cords, like they have that stuff around them to make the signal go further. So
isn't it interesting when you think about people who are stubborn? They say you can't teach old dogs new tricks, and for people who are stuck in their ways, I think about this, the brain being like a highway, and there's all these, these super highway, the roads that are so entrenched in the way that we do things, in the way that we think, and we can get so attached to one way of thinking. I think about religion or tradition or, and it's really interesting how one person is more open to change than others. From work to home life to relationships, and why the same situation the same circumstance can impact one person completely different than another. So that's incredibly significant, and I would be curious as to how can we, because neuroplasticity is important. Didn't he say neuroplasticity is, you just said it, Ashurka, that neuroplasticity is more difficult if you have thicker or more amounts of
the more entrenched
myelination.
Myelination is the process. Myelin is the matter, I guess.
Brain matter.
Is just the stuff that's around. So you can call it myelin, and myelination is the process of it being wrapped
Right. So the thicker the myelin,
Hmm.
the more entrenched you are in this,
Yep.
in the idea or the way of thinking or that kind of thing is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, so each brain cell, so everything happens because of neurons like firing off on each other. And the firing comes from one end to the other. And so, but with electricity, that it's not always like guaranteed to get to the end of that neuron. So sometimes it can short out, and if there's another neuron that's closer, it can just go to that one. And it's like, I'm gonna go here. Like, this is the thought process that I'm going towards, right? And so if you don't, it's not that like simple as if you just have too much myelination, you can't think, outside the box. But it is like if you've made it so that you've never made these different connections as a child. When you get older, it's harder to make those connections because as a child you've made your brain so one way. This is only one way of thinking. This is only one way you're going to do it, and we've never taught you to accept those other routes. You may have used those other routes, but you didn't make that a route that is something that you can always go to, or even like think of as an option, if that makes any sense. Like, that route is never an option, but it is there, but it was never an option for you. And so once you get stuck, like quote unquote stuck in your ways, it's going to be harder and harder for you to make those different connections. So like, I had a concussion back in the day, and when I had that, I was realizing it was really hard for me to make those like connections. But once you keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, you'll be able to do that. But it's going to take a lot of like
Repetition.
cognitive like repetition and cognitive like behavioral therapy to get out of that mindset and out of that neural path that you're always going to. So like, when people have negative thought patterns, it is very difficult for them to get out of that thought pattern because their brain is not wired to change. So that's kind of where it comes in.
And that's why the power of meditation and guided meditations and or affirmations and things like that is so key.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what the impact of music, where you can hear a song and automatically you go down that pathway, you go right down right to that thought, and then it can lead you down a rabbit hole, And so there's all these different, I was listening to music this morning and I was like, why do these songs have this kind of impact? Why is it when I hear this song, I automatically want to start to cry?
Right.
Whereas when I hear that song, I automatically want to dance. And I hear that song, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that the song is a dance song to inspire me to dance, right?
Yeah.
But what memory? What does the memory and stimuli and have to do with those neural pathways and the hardwiring that happens? I'm just so fascinated. Absolutely loving it.
Here it is.
I think one last thing I want to say is, if y'all really want to go into a rabbit hole about music and the brain, is I learned that when Alzheimer's patients, when they're so far in their disease that they're just mute, they don't move, they just sit there and they're quiet and they do nothing. If you play music from their childhood, they will start moving. And it is one of the most like awesome phenomenons, that because they're like, we can never talk to them, but you get them that music and they start moving, and there is a different memory or different brain process, I believe, that goes through when you're relating music to a certain specific time of your life that is just unable to remove. Because like you said, once you hear it, it's automatic. I remember this, I was in high school or wherever you were at when this happened, but it's just so interesting how that, even like when people that have Alzheimer's, their brain is like literally degraded. They have holes in their brain. It's really like sad, but there's still certain parts of the brain that can be activated by music, and it's quite interesting.
That's it, to say the least. Here's two things. Excuse me. Number one, I had that exact experience that you just mentioned. My mentor, the person how out of everybody in life right now, I wish was still with me, because his level of how proud he would be would just send my imagination through the roof, because he unlocked my imagination through his mentorship. My mentor had a headache, and 2 weeks later he was dead of brain cancer. I got a chance to spend his last moments with him in the hospital. And in those last times that I shared with him, I would play music and everybody would say to me in that hospital, we have never seen him respond this much. But when you come in and when you play music, he basically like leaps up out of bed, and he couldn't even talk. He couldn't do anything. It's the power of music. He could hear my voice, also sharing with him the memories, taking his imagination back to how he helped me to imagine. As I was singing the notes and saying, look, I hear it now. Look, there's this chord, and remember this lyric and this. And he was like leaping. So it's interesting because I had that firsthand experience. And the second thing I wanted to say about this when it comes to music, to help us to really peer in and understand this, is the reason why it impacts us with music, because music is about telling stories. Music, every song you hear is a story. And telling stories is the first way to invite us into our imagination, where you take familiar things and you play out familiar scenarios, and then you can even paint the kind of scenarios you want to. You can write a story about love. You can just sing a song about your story of breakup or heartbreak. All of those are stories, and they are immediately inviting people into their imagination. So that's why those neural connections are there. Because those stories, the stories that you hear through songs, whether you're dancing to one or whether you're crying your heart out, is going along with the story of your life at the same time. And so like you were saying earlier, Circuit, that's how we link them up to these different situations. But it's literally that. It is that we forget it because we're listening to music. But when, like right now, I'm talking to you, I'm talking directly to you. That's different than if you played a recording of my voice, or for the people listening to replay back, you'll hear it in this way. You're hearing now a story because this moment has passed. And that's what music is. It's a past moment that's brought back into the present to then imagine a future. That's what it is. So, yeah. Any other thoughts, Coco? Any other imaginings?
I'm just really enjoying this conversation. It's exciting to think about healing the mind, healing in the mind. One of the things I talk about in my She Thrives by Design work is the transformational thinking or thrive thinking.
Right.
The idea of making new thought patterns, creating thought patterns that are based on growth.
Right.
Which is what thriving is to grow. Right. And recognizing that you have that power to do that. Yes. Because thoughts, from a perspective, I always come from that healing, trauma, abuse, and loss perspective, right? Right. That's what I'm most passionate about. And so, I know, excuse me, I've had to really reprogram my thinking. Right. But to make it a habit, to know that there's this train of thought that I'm going to have that's quite toxic or negative or painful. Right. And the more I exercise my ability to have neuroplasticity, to be able to say, wait a second, there is another thought pattern, another thought right. That I can have, right. that can lead down to a different feeling that would inspire a different action that I may take, right. and reality that I will create ultimately. And so making a concerted effort to live a thrive thinking lifestyle where I'm choosing to recreate, redesign my mind.
Yes.
So
in real time.
Real time.
Choosing to redesign your mind.
Peace, and it's a choice to have to because I have memories that come up. Right. Toxic thoughts, intrusive thoughts. Right. And they can, if I allow it to lead me down that regular rabbit hole, right. it's going to impact my day and my reality and my life and ultimately the decisions I make. But to hear the science behind the theory is exciting because it's going to help me to explain further to individuals the power of the mind and the ability to shift your thinking, and why it's so important to make it a habit, to make that way, the understanding I can shift, I can recreate, redesign my thoughts, and I don't have to experience tormentative feelings as a result of intrusive, toxic thoughts that may have been ingrained in my psyche because of childhood trauma. So that's exciting.
Coco, say this with me. Redesign your mind in real time. Say it with me again. Redesign your mind
in real time.
Now, now take that from there and run with that, Coco. Run with that. That falls under Sheath or House by Design. That's redesign your mind in real time, especially because of the triplet aspect of it. But that's what it is, and I love how you said that. Like, that's what it is. It's interesting. It's interesting.
It's definitely hard work.
Right. It is. As all evolving is. As all evolving is, right?
I go back to that caterpillar in the cocoon, right? It literally, its caterpillar body melts. I can't imagine that's a pleasant experience. I'm melting in my mind. That's what the caterpillar is saying. Right. But to have to experience toxicity versus ignore it or stuff it or succumb to it, but rather in order to be able to transform it and redesign it, it takes a lot of work, but the results are breathtaking.
They're life-changing.
They're life-changing, and well worth it.
Right. If you want to not just survive, but take it to that next level and thrive. This is so fascinating. So I want to bring your attention to something that is another expression of the same thing. And if you're with me on Facebook, you're already seeing it. I'm going to reshare this today. I'm also going to make a piece of content that's my voice over top of this photo saying what you're about to hear. Check this out. The caption, if you're not with me on Facebook, it's just a picture of me, my beautiful self, looking up to the sky. And the caption I put is, know that the sky isn't even the limit. And so here is the writing that I put along with it. Jay Dilla is going to help me out with this one. Check it. Look high. That's what I want you to do today. Look high. Know that the sky isn't even the limit. Yep. I said it. Check this out. I want you to look high. Dream big. Open-eyed. And a will to live. To thrive. To soar. To reach forevermore, to strive and to grow, to glide and to know that the sky only looks like a ceiling of blue until you press through the molecules. And then you realize that the sky isn't even the limit. Infinite possibilities. Go get you some of them. 'Cause you deserve it. 'Cause you deserve it. Use your imagination. Yep, I wrote that on November 5th, 2020. Know that the sky isn't even a limit. What y'all think about that thought? Or those thoughts?
It's beautiful.
Thank you. So I just appreciated it because in the moment I'm thinking about this conversation. I'm like, man, the imagination is definitely fascinating. It's interesting we use the same brain to process and to imagine. And it is true that depending on what you've been through will determine your level of imagination with certain things. And that's why, like you said, Coco, it's why I appreciate the field of affirmations and motivation and all this kind of shit that we're doing, all these kind of other Asians that we're doing to feed the imagination. Because essentially, when you're in a situation like we're talking about where you can't imagine, and because of how thick those layers are, well, you can still be reached with some creativity. You can be reached through the power of someone else using their imagination to creatively get a message to you. I swear that's what an affirmation is. All it is finding that place. You can listen to a whole affirmation and not relate to 99 of the 100 things that's in there. But that one thing where it gets you, where it sparked through imagination a thought that you could connect with, is all that's needed. That's all that's needed for the doorway to open up for change. That's all that's needed for the rose to grow through that concrete garden so that it could just peek out to see the light, and then from there you can't stop it. It's just the power of imagination. Someone else using theirs to spawn and spark and trigger yours in a positive way. And that's why it's so important for us to do exactly what we do, each one of us. I'm speaking to you, my light being friends and community and family, because every bit of what you do that sparks your imagination and helps you through, and everything that you do that positively sparks someone else's imagination, is the greatest contribution you can give to help another human being. So it's interesting, to say the least. Anybody have any other thoughts before we shift the flow of this conversation? By all means.
Not really. I think the only thing I'd say is just, I don't know what I would do without my imagination.
Right.
Like me, I'm on the extreme end. Like if anything, I'm an innovator. So
Right.
any problem I see, I'm trying to solve it.
Right.
And anything that doesn't look like it connects, I'm trying to connect it.
Right.
So every time I'm in here, I always say, I always try to find a way of how this is aligned and how this is aligned with what I'm. And so I'm just, it's like I make all this stuff up on my own of like how stuff is. And so I feel like for me, I don't know what I would do without it. I'd probably be like a depressed, suicidal person if I couldn't like see outside of what is actually in front of me. So without my imagination, I don't know. Yeah.
You can't imagine what you would do
I
without
couldn't
your
imagine it.
And all I want to say to that is good. Oh my gosh, man. You know, whew, that's really what it is. That's what it is. And so, yeah, it's, you just echoed something that I commended you on the other day. I was like, you were like, we always seem to align. And I was like, what's really happening is that you are imagining, like you are looking for that place. This is why when people talk about things that are meant to be and not meant to be, like the only context that I think that actually makes sense is from the perspective of you labeling something after the fact with your imagining ass and your ability to label things in your life. How the hell you want to label them? So you can look at something and you can look at a love that you had for years and say, we were just meant to be, because you're putting a label on the fact that you appreciate that this shit is working out and that you're happy and blah, blah, blah. You could look at something else that you see as or experience as unfortunate and say that wasn't meant to be just because you didn't want it. I think that's the only context that makes sense. Because I believe what the real deal is, is that we are just using our imagination to put meaning to things. And congratulations, because that's how you survive. If you didn't put the meaning of the letters STOP on a damn red octagon at the end of a street to mean you need to stop, then your ass wouldn't survive, and other people wouldn't either. So congratulations. But yes, the other side of that is that we forget that at times. You are the one that's deciding every moment what something means. It doesn't have intrinsic meaning. It just has meaning to you based on how you label it or how you accept the meaning of other sentient beings who you decide to accept their label, whether it's your mom and you believe that she's doing well, or you're only two and it's all you know. It's all you've experienced. And so that's why I look at that. Last thing I'll say is that's why that whole serendipity plus intention equals life. It's like things are just things. Things are just things. They're happenings. We are the ones that are making the decision about what something is and what its reason is in our lives. And that shit changes over time, all the time. It's just so funny because we forget that. Because yeah, we can imagine, I guess. But anywho, are there any other thoughts, Coco? You have any other thoughts on this whole topic or anything we discussed?
No, I just need to know who Ashoka is because she's brilliant. Like,
Right.
where you come from, and what do you do, and who are you?
Not what do I do? I troll on the interwebs most of the time. No. I'm just free spirit. I just be out here,
Right.
being what is it, a light worker or whatever they call them people.
No kidding.
But yeah, I just be out here just spreading the positivity as best as I can.
Yep.
Yeah, I think if once we get into the check-in, you'll be like, you'll see both sides of me. It's only funny because it's like I'm just so happy and this and that, and then I do the check-in. It's like, oh well, that doesn't seem so happy.
Oh man, that's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to that. You and Coco chopping it up, having a conversation. You know, the one thing that's interesting to me about you, Acerca, and Coco, mentioned this to Acerca a few weeks ago, I guess, or maybe a week or so, is like we're all trotting around the same rabbit holes. Like we're thinkers, and the things that we think about, they're just in alignment. They're in alignment. Yeah. And even this level of openness that we're talking about, like this level of imagination, we might be all living different kinds of lives as far as like, our, like what we have, our resources, like, and all these kind of things. But like at the core level, like there's a link between our DNA, like and the way that we think and the way that we process, and what our experiences, no matter how different they are, what they brought us to as far as life, living, and ways of thinking. And I find it hella fascinating. Like when you meet someone where you're like, damn, like we feel like we come from the same world, and we do in one respect, but yeah, so that's where we are. So family, a couple more things that I will mention before we tie a bow on this experience. Again, I'm gonna share this look high thing. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna see if I can do this right after I hang up this experience, right after I hang up the phone. I'm gonna record that. Know that the sky isn't even the limit. Please check that out and share that with a friend, somebody who needs to look high, dream big, keep their eyes open, and have a will to live, all that good stuff. Also, if you can, share this experience by clicking those scissors down there and sharing it to your Instagram reel. I just realized, like, reels, people really see reels. But share 30 seconds of this experience to show somebody else these beautiful topics that we share and talk about every day. And yeah, I'm going to record that Neuroscience of Imagination video. Now, I heard what y'all was saying about the upgrades, right? So I'm going to do two things. Number one, so that I don't like wind up making too much of a project out of something and then it's not realistic and I can't get it done in a timely manner, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do what's there and then save the rest of the chop up for a conversation like this. In fact, I'm going to start doing my videos that way, where it'll be a cover of the information and it's like, boom, let's chop it up more on the morning show here, boom. And so, yeah, look out for that. Because actually, I think what I'm about to create with this is about to be a masterpiece. And I'm about to start doing a lot of pieces like this when I'm studying and learning and I come across information that I like. It's going to be something unique. Who do you know that does covers of informational videos? What the hell? That's Aaron Hill with my imaginative ass. That's what it is.
Well, that's because you got the voice for it. Like, honestly, you put anything in your voice and then it's like, oh, this is interesting.
Oh, shit. I love it. Look, thank you for the compliment. Because, yeah, I mean, I lead with that. You know, I also think about the, like, I always want to bring something soulful to it. Like, when I listen to this right here, right? Let me pause the music I got in the background. When I played this neuroscience video.
Humble for a dolphin balancing
the video,
a pineapple
the
doesn't
music.
exist. So how come you can imagine it anyway?
The music's cool.
One hypothesis
it fits
called
it fits the you know, the thing.
posterior
But imagine
cortex
if you heard
by
like
long, spindly
a
salad-
beat like the one I just played in the background. Like, it should be a whole different experience. And there you go. Enter Aaron Hill. Imagination. I think my imagination is actually my greatest asset. And I actually thank my mom. Let me see if my mother will get on here just so I can say hi before we close out. My mother, when I say I thank my mother for the power of my imagination, I thank my mother. My mother happened to be a school teacher, complete about 40 years to be exact. Let me just tell her, I want to say thank you for helping me to develop my imagination. I'm texting my mother right now. All right, so we'll see if she'll pop in the room in the next minute or two before we close out. But my imagination comes from my mom. My mom, 40-year school teacher, took me to museums. She made color out of life. You know, as soon as I came out the womb, there's pictures. As soon as I can see, there's pictures around. There's words describing the objects in the room. There's color. There's imagination. There's books. There's trips to museums. There's being put in drama and theatrics. There's playing softball. There's reading to me every night. There's taking me to just, you know, the list goes on and on and on. If she pops in here, maybe she'll remember a few scenarios that she could share. But it was all that unfolded my imagination. My mother is responsible for that. And so where I find myself today is someone who now understands the power of imagination to this degree that we've, you know, chopped it up in this conversation. And so I'm so grateful to my mom. And there she is, as I look down at my phone and see that mom popped in. Hey. If you'd like to come to the stage, I just want to thank you for helping me to develop my imagination. Family, let's say hello to my mom, Cheryl. And there she is.
Hey, Mom.
Hey, how are you?
Grand Rising.
Good. How y'all doing?
Better now that we've heard your voice. We're doing well. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Everybody hanging in there with the snow wherever you are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is snowing here. Coco, is it snowing there? Or have y'all got
Nope.
Oh, y'all got a break. Canada got a break today. At least that part.
The weather's been warm. Interesting.
Well, that's the ironic thing. Yesterday, I think it was 65 degrees. And I don't know how the ground is holding this snow and making it stick. The temperatures did drop last night, but still, that was a fast, cool down.
They playing with the weather machine.
Yeah.
So we were here talking about. I just finished, and you would really enjoy this if you get a chance to listen back to this, after the room is over and we're about to end in a few minutes. If you hit replay from the very top, I read an article about the power of imagination, as well as played this video called The Neuroscience of Imagination. Oh man, so fascinating. Have you ever heard of the neural ensemble in the brain?
Vaguely.
Yeah, okay. So if you hear this, or if you get a chance to listen to it, so many things that's interesting, and it all sounds like music, it sounds like life, on and on and on. So we were talking about these things, and as we were wrapping up here, I was just talking about not only what imagination means to me, but how my imagination was developed. You know, you exposed me to so many experiences when I was young, from reading books to going to museums to being in drama and playing softball and, reading to me every night. Like, you always did so many things to really develop my imagination. And that's the greatest thing that you could do, because as we were talking about earlier, I mean, it's literally the thing that allows you to pull through and survive or thrive in life. So I just wanted to say thank you for all of the things that you did to develop my imagination, because it was the greatest trait that I could possibly have as a human being for survival.
I told you were a science project, didn't
I? That is hilarious.
We're gonna let him do whatever and see how it come out.
Oh my gosh.
I love that. A science project. May I see that, Miss Cheryl? Because wow.
Yeah, seriously, because first of all, what I was able to extend to him, it really was a trial and error. I know with parenting is always the case,
right?
Because we don't come with a manual. But I started teaching in '76, and my background as far as being exposed to various things weren't there. And so once I started teaching in '76, I always had the second graders for the longest time.
Right.
But I realized, evaluating my own early life as well, with these kids, not all of them, but some of them were coming so deficient,
right,
with not knowing a lot of basic stuff.
Right.
It wasn't done for me either,
right,
but I kept saying and creating a list. When I have a child, I'm gonna make sure, it was giving me some foundation for me to cover,
right,
when my child comes,
right,
because I wanted him to be, well, back in our day of going to school, group 1, group 2, group 3. And I wanted, we have that upper hand to put them in group 1, if the child doesn't come with a learning disability. But at least you will know firsthand before the school tell you about some deficiency that your child may have.
Right.
Or
Right.
Parents to be so busy with their life and just say, well, I'll just let the school,
Right.
discover it or whatever.
Right.
And then when they bring it to the table, it's so surprising to them. And it's kind of, to me, on the embarrassing side to a degree, but not always, because if you're not in the field, or if you don't know what to do as prerequisite before they come to school,
Right.
you don't know, so
Right.
you can't truly be held accountable. But if you're interactive with them and you measure them against other kids in their peer group,
Right.
something should kind of ring a bell. But then again, sometimes it doesn't happen.
Right. Right. Right.
So it just gave me a mental list. I'm gonna make sure, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that.
Right.
These things weren't done for me.
Right.
And so being in the field and being right there, it gave me an up close and personal I said, oh, I got to make sure that I do the best I can
Right.
to give Aaron a foundation that I didn't have,
Right.
but I'm going to at least give him a running start.
Right.
And so I often told him when he started coming to my school in pre-K, my girlfriend that worked with the teacher in his class would say, sure, every day I got a group, Miss Jackson got a group, and Aaron got a group. And I would say, well, so when are y'all gonna send him his check so he can pay his little kindergarten pre-K rent? So
Oh man, that's funny. I don't even think I knew that or remember that. What was I doing in my group? Oh my goodness.
children learn from other kids.
Right.
I don't know what kinds of things that she had you doing, but
Right.
we know children learn from other kids.
So I had my group of kids that were learning from me.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I didn't even know that.
And you remember a few times I will call you down
Mm-hmm.
to my class
Right.
so I can show kids it's okay to decode words. I had second graders that, didn't have that phonic. I mean, some kids learn by whole words and phonetically, but we had to teach phonetically.
Right.
And so I would bring you down and we have the kids there and you would just read for them. I mean, decode the words for them. I was trying to show them you don't have to be afraid. You can learn just like this pre-K child can. And they were just so excited. They give you a little hand clap and turn on to the point that you didn't want to come back down there. No, they're gonna laugh at me. They're gonna clap down one. And so
wow.
I only did it that one time because I say nah.
It's amazing. It's amazing because even though you only did that one time, like everything that you shared in the last couple minutes has echoed everything we've talked about today here about the power of imagination and how it comes about. Here it is, you unlock the imagination of second graders by showing them another expression, something to get them into their imagination. And I was telling Asirka the other day that, there are two ways that change comes about as far as somebody going in a different path. It's either demonstrated for them or it's not. And if it's demonstrated, they might walk in it because that's just how the chips stack up. And sometimes you have stories like yours and like Asirka's and like Coco's. It's like you have these situations where what brings about change is someone looking at something and saying, I'm using my imagination to imagine something different than I had for myself or than my family had. And it's so interesting because literally just you imagining a different life is what gave me the opportunity to have a successful life, but then to also myself have the power and understand the power of imagination too. It's really fascinating. It's really interesting. It's like the greatest thing you could do for a kid, to unlock their imagination. So I used to do a number of different things. You used to take me to museums. You put me in all these different activities. It's funny because my father, the way my father looks at it, he's always like, yeah, he always acts like you were just sending me there so you could have a babysitter. I'm like, no, man, like she was developing my character. But, he found his way in a different way to like expand himself. He wasn't put into all those things. He found his way to it even through incarceration, and that bringing about a change for him. So it's really interesting. But you put me in all those things to make me as well-rounded as possible. And you also put me in places with diverse communities so that way I could see other people's lives and be around other ethnicities.
True. I didn't have that growing up.
Right.
And I felt when you were in classes at Harvard Heights with diversity,
Right.
I was glad for that situation, even though, like I say, I didn't experience that in doing my day and time
Right.
that would have been a lot of Jim Crow, and my family never talked about the struggles. So that would have been a shock for me if I ever encountered it. But everything works out for a reason.
Yeah.
But when you were placed in classes early on with diversity, I was glad for that.
Yeah.
So you would not have to experience feeling inferior or feeling like you were nothing and you wouldn't amount to anything. So
Right.
I was glad about that.
Wow.
Diversity.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting. It's really interesting, but like I said, it teaches me so much about how to develop kids' imagination. It's the most powerful tool you can give them. The most powerful tool, because imagination is evolution. Imagination is the ability to work through an issue or problem and use tools to see things differently than you've seen them before, or that you've experienced, by linking up other experiences together and being able to imagine something different. It's really, really powerful. I just put something above your head and mine on Clubhouse that I want you to click. It's a demonstration of imagination in the form of myself and my daughter Aria when she turned 14 and we were having fun at Sky Zone. It was a lot of fun. Click that link. Look at us using our imagination to have so much fun at this trampoline park and jumping around and having fun. And it's me doing the same thing that my mother did with and for me. It's taking my daughter Aria and having an experience with her that would make her develop her imagination by us having fun and experiencing something new. My other daughter, May Lee, every time she asked to go, like if we're going to hang out to get something to eat, she always looks up a different place, like something new. Because she's always like, I want to have a new experience so that I could learn and grow and experience something different. And I always value it. I'm like, thank you for reminding me, a Taurus, like my mom, we can lock into a routine. We can eat the same thing every day. Like we can lock in. And so to be reminded that it continues to develop myself and it continues to develop my mind to have a different experience, which then helps me develop my imagination. So it's a very fascinating thing. But watch that video that's above your head. Click it, save it, watch it later, or what have you. Let me know what you think. It was a fun video. Hey, Eunice. How are you? Just see you popped in. I thank you all so much for hanging out. Family, I want to say to you again, Happy New Year. Happy New You. Happy newness to you. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about imagination today. Because in order for you to make a new moment, a new week, a new year in your life be what it be, you got to have the power of imagination to see yourself in a new way, or to see new circumstances, or you just got to see it. You got to see it to believe it. You got to run with it. And so as you imagine your year or even your day, I'm curious what's on your mind. I'm also curious if there is a place where I can stand in accountability with you on your day as you start your week this Monday, and also this year, 2022. Before we go into that and wrap this up, I want to say to everybody that's in the DMV, what's up, family? Every Monday night, I'm excited about tonight, because every single Monday night, you can catch me and the family, that feel good, at our house for Baltimore's best jam session. It's called The Session, and it's hosted by Clarence Ward III, flugelhorn, trumpet, and saxophone extraordinaire. I'm in the house band on keys. It's free, and it's great food and drinks and all kind of good stuff. So again, join me Monday nights, our house. That's at 301 29th Street, the letter R, not my house. I always have to remind myself, don't come to my home. Don't come to my home. It's at our house, 301 West 29th Street, 7:30 to 10:30. And if you're not with me in my neck of the woods, you can join me on Facebook at Aaron Hill TV. I'm always streaming for the session. And I think that about it. All right. So if there's any place where I can stand in accountability with you, come through. You can come to the stage, even if you just want to say, hey, before we wrap up this experience. And yeah. Or if you have any other final thoughts.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're definitely standing. Oh shit! Oh my god. Okay.
You all right?
Yeah. I almost knocked everything down.
I'm about to say, don't fall. That sounds like a fall, or like almost destroyed everything.
Yeah. Anyway, I was gonna say, yeah, you're definitely already standing in accountability with me with the imagination stuff,
Right.
and just trying to like imagine a better future and different possibilities, and just
Right.
even though like what's in front of me is real and like obvious and whatnot, doesn't mean that it's like the only option or whatnot. We're in our third day of the year.
Right.
Our third day of the year. So last year we were on our third day of the year, and we really thought this was going to be a good year, and January 6th happened, and that was so funny to me. It was like all of a sudden people are climbing on the
Yeah, no, that was
so it's like things can turn around either for the good or the bad. You just it's up to you how you like look at it. So
right. 100%. I couldn't agree with you more on that, which is again why this imagination thing is so cool, because you don't have to accept your circumstance. You can imagine yourself in a better place. And that's what a lot of people did. What's that?
I like that. Okay, so like one of my friends had told me, and I was like sitting with this for a few days. I didn't know how to fucking take this, because she was right, and she's like, I feel like you accept mediocrity out of people, and that you do a lot for people, yet they don't do the same for you. And I'm like, well, I mean, these are the people that are in my life. Like, what do you want me to do about it? Like, that's what I have. And so when you just said like you don't have to accept it, I think I kind of confused like accepting with saying like, okay, well, this is all I'll take, instead of saying, okay, this is what it is, but I'm not going to like take that.
Wow.
So that makes sense. That really helped me like understand that, because I've been like trying to figure that out for days. So I'm like, damn, she's right. Because like my family, and these are people I can't control, like my family. Like I can't control who is in my family. I can't control my mother. I can try and control my friends, but like at the end of the day, like you can't control people. So it's like, how do I get out of this? And it's like, you know what? I am out of it by like not believing I'm like in it.
Ooh, it does. It makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm loving that how much sense it's making to you. Like, yeah, and it's so interesting because it's such a nuanced thing. It's a nuanced thing. It's just a simple like shift of perspective. But like, wow, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's when you start realizing like, in a lot of ways in life, that you don't have to change, like even if the circumstance itself, even if you can't change it, you can like almost separate yourself from it by building like another place to be inside of it until it changes. It's like the way it's like a circle inside of a circle, and then inside that circle you control the experience of it. You just got to know that you have the ability to create that circle and to set up those boundaries, and that you control in that space the tone of it or how it feels, and you use that in order to keep you safe, and in order to also keep you in the place and the headspace of like the positivity needed to burst out of the other circle with your circle. Like, or when the time comes, the other circle just passes away. Like, it's just you build a new reality based on just a simple shifting of perspective. So yeah, I'm so glad that came through for you in that moment, in that way. And I'm so glad that I could say something that would allow you, that would lean into your imagination and put those things together, because you could relate to those things, and that's how it came together for you. That's dope.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
That's so dope. Oh man, and that's so dope. And thank you for letting me know, just by my flow this morning, like purely by me leaning into my imagination. You know, before I start this experience, this is why I love doing this and why for me it's so important to do it, because every single experience is me leaning into developing my imagination. Like every time I do this experience, it's completely improvisational. I never decide a topic. I never do any of that. I wait till the moment. I wait till right when I'm about to start, which for sometimes that means I start later than I will. But hey, that's just the flow of it. I'm actually okay with that. That's it. It moves into this place of like, you just never know when you'll catch me. But when you do, it's like, whoa, hey, I learned the power of that through my homeboy, Blue. He's just like, hey, when a moment happens, that's when you experience it. That's the beauty of it. But I allow myself to lean into my imagination. So this morning, that's where it pulled me. I was listening to, and when we get a chance, when you finish, as soon as I hit end on this, even if it's just for 5 seconds, for everybody here, let's hit replay and just listen to the first like 60 seconds. What you're going to hear is one of my mentors in my school in psychotherapy talking about how psychotherapy came from hypnosis, not the other way around. And it led into this depth as far as, because it was tapping into the imagination. Suggestion plus imagination equals hypnosis. That's the reason why anytime you listen to a song that you enjoy, you become hypnotized by it and you're in that place, because it's using the power of imagination by telling you a story. And then the writer also has an intention. So they are suggesting to you to feel a particular way, even if it's along with them. Like, I feel this way and I want you to feel me. That's suggestion. So see how it unfolded, because I think you'll find it interesting how it unfolded to this. And thank you for affirming me in just my life. Like, you just affirmed my whole life and my everything by saying that, and by saying that this is right on point for you in that way. Yeah, let's get it. So with that, everybody, let me share this real quick. I'm gonna just put check out this power of I'm putting up a post. A power of imagination conversation. All right, this is on my Facebook page. I'm putting up a clip from today. As like I said, I would love it if you did as well. You just hit share, and I'm sharing the goodness with people, because this right here is how you trigger people's imagination into them moving into even better places in their lives. So with that, family, I am looking forward to a great Monday. Again, join me 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, either on Facebook or in person. We're gonna have a great jam session tonight. And other than that, I just look forward to saying hey to your beautiful face again in the near future. Y'all know what it is. Wednesday, Friday, same time, same place. Hey, so to Eunice and T, have a great day today, family. And Acirca, as always, it's a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye. Peace, family. Be well.